Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode of Glued. Glued by SAS to be specific. What is SAS? Staples in the company, which is why we're here. I'm the founder, Aditya. I have Ishan with me today, who's the creative director. Uh, why we're doing this is it's not that hard, honestly. It's just a conversation between like me and Nishan have these conversations on a regular, I would say almost daily, right, with the
Yeah.
brands and the projects that we work on. And we often get a lot of founders, we get a lot of people who come and ask us about wanting to work with us or what we think about a specific project when it comes to branding, packaging, marketing, go to market strategies, and stuff like that. So I felt like it's not fair that if we just keep everything to ourselves. I think there are a lot of cool brands, there's a lot of cool work happening all around India and the world. So this is just us going over some of those cool things and what we think about it. You don't have to agree or disagree. It's just about our take, right, in terms of how it resonated with us, what they did really well, and trust me, 90% of it will be positive, and the rest of it will be Ishan's opinion. So
I think the whole idea is that we usually have these conversations behind closed doors. So it's really nice to open it up to people to understand how we think and how we perceive certain brands and our opinions on them as well. So I think this is a beautiful way to go about it.
yeah, someone in the office said that we both love talking. So we're
Yeah,
like, let's put a camera and let's see if there's
yeah,
anyone who wants to listen to this. But yeah, super excited about this venture. We've been thinking about it for a while, and we thought 2026 it's the best time to get started. A little bit about myself. Did my education in Bangalore, India. Grew up here, then went to Canada. Was there for 9 years. Studied marketing through and through. I was obsessed with advertising. That typical ad person, right? When it comes to Mad Men, when it comes to just being very inquisitive about how ads are made, from seeing TV ads while watching cricket or while watching sports. I was very enamored by how all of this worked, right? So decided to study that. Worked at Shopify in Canada as well. Worked in e-commerce for a while. Loved the whole idea of brand building from scratch. So that's how I got into it, and then just saw where India is headed, and with so many brands and so many founders coming up every single day with some unique idea or a cool product, I was like, we definitely have to get started here. So came back here 2.5 years ago, started Stamp and Seal, and now we are here recording and chatting about other brands as well. Would love to know more. I think people would love to know more, Ishan, about your experience and how you
so
got to where you are today.
yeah. So I'm Ishan Chatterjee. I'm based out of Delhi. I've lived in Delhi all my life, and I think I've had a very interesting set of things that I've done over my life. I was a professional athlete for the longest time. From the ages of 7 to 22, I used to play cricket at a national level, and eventually, once I let go of that, I realized that creativity and anything that is creative is something that was very enticing to me. So, and since then, I've been working in advertising for around 6 to 7 years now, where I started off as a designer, just a basic graphic designer, and eventually worked my way up to a point where I finally became creative director, and which involved doing a lot of production, working with a lot of big brands, doing shoots, planning strategies for those brands, planning campaigns for those brands. And I think that was I think it was the most satisfying thing that I could find other than playing sport, which was that the result of your creative stimulation or whatever you were trying to achieve, when you saw something fruitful from that, it would give me that feeling. So I think I wouldn't say I'm a ad guy. I wouldn't say I'm a specific person. I think I consider myself a creative who works in that space, no matter what field it is in. In terms of brands, like I've worked with brands across the board. So I've worked with Canon India, I've worked with Suzuki, Fortis Hospitals, Medanta Hospitals, a lot of like brands across all the board, as well. And in terms of music and what I'd really like to do as a passion project, I own this IP, and I'm the co-founder of this IP called House Cat. So it's a very community oriented space where we get musicians. And I think the idea was born out of the fact that people got tired of the club, like how you when you go out to listen to music, I think the culture is changing to a space where everything is becoming very commercial. So our whole goal was to create this safe space for a community of people to come and enjoy music, where for the artist also you get to play whatever you want to play, the kind of music you want to expose to people, and for an audience you come and experience something new. We're also on YouTube, and I think it's been there for around like 7 8
We'll
months
we'll
now,
plug
and
it.
it's
We'll plug it.
yeah, we'll plug it. House cats represent.
I agree. In fact, that my point being that that was the biggest reason to have you come on board, right? Because I feel like a lot of people say they are creative and they have all of these things, and then they're like, oh, but all of it gets burnt out at work.
I truly
And I
believe
think
that
that,
anyone
yeah,
anyone who is creative has to, like, I don't see creativity or any kind like design or whatever you're working in as just part of a job, right? Like it's a lifestyle, in my opinion.
I think that's what we're trying to do here, right? With Bloom,
Yeah,
is that
yeah, absolutely.
we're trying to understand how things stick, how brands work across the board, and then we'll also be looking into the individuals who do it, right? And we can
Yeah,
learn from those individuals, and like 100% they are the bracket of thinkers, right? So that's the idea, to cover a lot of the work and like see who's doing good work, right? And being inspired from them as well. To further take this conversation along, think of this like the idea of the dynamic that we thought would work here on an episodic format, week on week, would be Ishan's the CD, extremely creative, looks at a lot of the stuff when it comes to how things are created, how campaigns are created, what it takes, right? Pre-production, production, post-production, all of that. And I would say my expertise, or where I would come in, is I look at things more from a brand brief objective, from a brand standpoint, right? And also, if it's doing well, on what metrics does it do well? Because I think the biggest issue we find as an agency or as a company that it's in this space is that you find people who are like, oh, hame viral kar do, right? Or like, let's have the
we've
have the most views because
we've
they
heard that way too
correlate
much.
views. Yeah,
We've heard
I've
that way too
so
many
many,
times.
so many, and like the people are like, oh, so you can't do it. It's like it's not about not doing it. It's about reaching the right people. So even if I have 6,000 followers and I have 7,000 or 10,000 views on a creative, right, out of which 80% are my target audience, and the conversion rate is high, that's a win, right? So it's hard for a lot of people to understand that. But I guess through these conversations and through a lot of the brands that we will showcase here and the projects that we will showcase here on Glued, it'll be pretty clear, right, what I'm
Yeah,
saying. And I think the outlook of someone with my viewpoint and then someone with your creative lens coming together to have a conversation about a campaign. Because a lot of the times, Ishan, a campaign, we obviously butt heads on this. Sometimes creatively it does well, and then I'm like, yeah, but it didn't
what's the
convert, right,
performance
the way
on
we
that? Yeah,
wanted.
absolutely.
What's the performance on that? So I think it's a 50-50. So it's good to see, and have both the lenses here,
I
or
think
to even use.
the whole idea between, like, see, creativity has no bounds, right? Like you can be an artist and have create artwork that is so subjective and so abstract, but that there's a different space for that. I think the whole idea of marketing is to utilize that creative space where you have such complicated sectors of thinking, and boil it down to a simple way where it's easy for the consumer to understand, right? At the end of the day, when you if I go to a cafe and I see any brand, it's the feeling that I take away from it. It's nothing else, right? If I see an ad film, it either makes me feel good, it makes me feel happy, sad, emotional, and it's as simple as such a complicated idea always boils down to a simple thought, which is what a consumer feels, right? They don't know what has gone behind that thinking process, but it's the interpretation of that idea that hits them is what matters, I feel like. And I think, to me, that's the most important thing for a brand. Like when I think of branding, when I think of all these aspects that go through, like all these sectors, right? In my opinion, like, it doesn't matter unless it's all cohesive in a way where it funnels into someone's mind and they understand it in a better way.
Yeah, and for me, I feel like it's important that Ishan, we break it down, right? We
Yeah,
break it down in the easiest and simplest way for people, where they understand what building a brand means, right?
absolutely.
And
Yeah,
what like, so when we say glued, the idea here with the episode or the whole series, is that glued is two. There's obviously two meanings here. One is that it's the stickiness, right? So when you glue something together. So what sticks? So which brands stick and which don't? And we're talking about sticking in your mind, right? So
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
idea here. And also we say glued to our screens, right? How good is the creative that you're glued to your screen? So that was the idea behind this name. And hopefully we can simplify it for everyone, because it can seem pretty on a day to day. You go through these ads, you go through these brands, and like you'll be like, oh, a brand means branding, right? Certain assets, right? Or a brand means an individual or a founder, right? Or a brand means a certain kind of creative voice, right? That, oh, this is the audio I'm going to use, this is the cinematic lens I'm going to have. It's not that. It's all of it, right?
yeah,
So if you think
absolutely.
about it from that POV, and when we break it down, I think people will understand, right? And
Yeah,
to get
100%.
things moving again, because I think it's the first time, so don't want to bore people here. There's no better way to start with, I think, the greatest brands, two greatest brands ever to be created. And I would say the biggest rivalry in advertising and marketing when it comes to brands has to be Coca-Cola and Pepsi, right?
One of my favorite rivalries for sure. Like I think
The
this is,
biggest,
yeah, yeah,
for sure,
definitely.
for sure. And what better way of introducing what they are doing in 2026 than the Super Bowl that just happened, right? So I think Pepsi has crushed it there. And then simultaneously in India, we had Thumbs Up come up with the campaign, right, which is Coca-Cola. So I think we can dive into what they have done, right, and dissect slash give our POV, guys. You don't have to agree to it. Again, I'm going to say that multiple times, right? Otherwise, in the comment section, we're going to get things like, or as if this is true, or, it's just our POV. If you have yours, we'd love to hear. So leave your comment there, and hopefully we can learn something from you as well, right? So we can
Correct.
get started. Uh, cool. Let's get right into it. I think the first one we're going to see is the Super Bowl, Pepsi.
Oh, I loved this one.
You're not the only one, but this can be heavy.
I love that. This is a. I think this is such a culturally relevant piece of work, and I think there's so many nuances to this. I mean, I'll let you take the floor first. I have so much to say about it. So, what do you
No, I
think
think
about this?
people definitely want to hear more from you when it comes to the creative side of things. And the most fascinating thing to me, Ishan, was that over the years, especially with Super Bowl being the biggest ad spent for most brands, right, where they put their money, is the fact that they used the uh,
Hmm.
black, which is their Pepsi Zero,
Yeah.
zero sugar, right? Which was extremely interesting to me. Unlike the previous campaigns and stuff where they focused on the iconic blue classic Pepsi versus the
Hmm.
classic Coke, I think they're targeting the right audience, right? They're seeing what people are drinking, right? We're in an age where consumers are going for the non-sugary option, and that's why they went ahead with that, right? Rather than the typical one. I found that to be extremely interesting. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that a lot of people actually around me have told me like the flavor of Diet Coke is so much more interesting than the regular Coke. Like they just like the taste of it also. It's not even like the sugar free aspect is there, but I do feel like what happens with sugary drinks is that sometimes the sugar content is so high that they don't like the flavor of it. But here it's just the perfect amount of like fizz in terms of that and in terms of the flavor that they go through. Also, I've seen a lot of people like prefer Diet Coke. People who eat a lot of sugar, they'll be like, "Oh, I want to order Coke, but this is going to be Diet Coke and not regular Coke." So
Yeah.
it's actually become a culturally relevant thing where I've had friends who've like I've told them I drink Coke and they're like, "What's wrong with you? Like drink
Yeah.
Diet Coke," So
No,
I've seen it.
100%. So I feel like, yeah, so I feel like them telling the world that, okay, we've literally moved where cola means this, especially
Yeah,
in
yeah.
North America and the US, right? And I would say the second interesting part of the video has to be the fact that they are directly mentioning for the longest time that, oh, I think that Coke was always better, but in a blind
Hmm.
test, it was Pepsi's better,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
something that we all at some level feel, right? So Pepsi, being such a big brand, is okay being, hey, you got it wrong, right, for the longest time, and you're not the only one, right?
Mm,
It's an
mm.
emotion that we all go through, right? So I think that
It's
was
become
really cool
it's
because
become a personality trait for the user as well, where either you're a Coke person or a Pepsi person. So it's not even, it's a
100%.
yeah, it's like, it's almost like it's become a cultural phenomenon where it's a when, when two people are having small talk also, sometimes like I talk to people and ask them if they're a Coke person or a Pepsi person.
Then you
So
judge
I
them.
think
You judge them.
then you
Yeah.
judge them. I'm not going to reveal what I like, but yeah.
No, for sure, for sure. But from a creative lens, I think there's a lot more to it.
So I think
Yeah.
the whole I think it's really cool how they've brought back the polar bear aspect of it. I think we've been seeing this polar bear in Coca-Cola ads for the longest time. I think the first time they showed it was somewhere around the 1920s, and since then they've developed this polar bear, and people don't know about this, but they really thought that the polar bear was related to the cool aspect of it, but there was a lot more to it. So the person who created the character also, he essentially, his dog looked like a polar bear, and the whole personality of a polar bear was also very mischievous. It was very cute, it was very nice, and and in a time like that, people wanted something to relate to. So and because advertising has become so complicated and saturated now, in the older days it was much more simpler for someone to understand, just from a simple visual, and and instill that emotion into the audience. So I did feel like, using the polar bear as someone which is a Coke mascot, and then going through this whole idea of doing a blind taste test and them liking Pepsi is, I think it's a very genius way of doing advertising, where you aren't plugging other brands in a very stark manner, but you're pushing your brand forward as well by showing the polar bear from that perspective. And I also think that in terms of the whole idea of, if you see the ad that came out in 1993, it was these bunch of polar bears actually sitting and drinking Coke and watching the aurora borealis, and the kind of graphics that they used then to now, it's just so much more realistic, it's so much more out there, and they've been able to plug it in. And obviously, like, technology has come such a long way, but it's good to see how it has evolved from what it was before to what it is now.
At the end of the ad, where you see that screen with the two polar bears, right? I think that's such a brilliant use of something that went viral. I mean, we all know about the gate that happened at the Coldplay concert and with the controversy that happened around it. And I felt like it became such a viral thing. And for a brand to tap into social media trends, where, in a world where everyone's scrolling through social media, following influencers, following viral content, I think to tap something of that sort into an ad, like a mainstream ad which plays on TVs and in different mediums, I think that's a brilliant way to relate to an audience. Because at the end of it, even when I watched it, I smiled, because I was like, wow, okay, how interesting of them to, bring it up in an advertisement like this.
And
So I
we
think that was
see
pretty
that we
cool.
see that a lot now. I think a lot of brand filmmakers, a lot of the TV ad, the conventional agencies or even the bigger ones have started
Mm.
using either the influencer, right, in the ad, or they started taking exactly what you said, like an incident or something that went viral on the internet, and they make a spin on it, right? And
Yeah.
then either use the influencer and their whole thing. Remember, I think even just things like the one that comes to my mind was the best one was the Rishabh Pant and Gavaskar, right? Where he got out for the
Yeah.
match and he said, "Stupid, stupid, stupid," and then
Hmm.
I think it's one of the companies that
It
use the same
it was
exact thing
relatable,
in
yeah. So
reverse.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's in this day and age, I feel like the whole idea of having a brand ambassador, having like these big actors and all of these, like creating relatability through that has changed now. Now it's about what is relevant, what is viral, who's working through what, and who's an influencer, who's popular from that perspective. So it's a very smart use
and
of what
it's
they've
and
done.
it's I'm happy with that because what happens is that I won't get into the nitty-gritties when we obviously serve our clients as well. You either go to certain influencers or you go to these big actors or renowned people regionally as well. The amount they ask, right, with respect to just a feature in the ad or in the reel or whatever. I love the fact that we have new things happening every 6 months or every new year
Hmm.
where you have newer people coming, which actually helps a lot of the marketers, right, on
Yeah.
like in terms of what we do. because we have a bigger pool to choose from, right? The relevancy of that individual is not for a decade or longer, right? So I think that is something that has changed as well. And overall, if you look at the use of influencers or even just actors and a lot of celebrities now, it's very different, right? I think even a lot of the stars from the past have come back, right? Cred did it, right? Cred did a really good job of that. Which went
There's a
really
callback
very
trend.
successful.
There's a callback trend where someone who was relevant before and bringing someone, suddenly launching them into a new light. It's actually given a lot of people, newfound careers as well. Like Jackie Shroff. I'm just name dropping right now, but Jackie Shroff was someone who was irrelevant for the longest time. And suddenly he's become the biggest thing just because, through his Instagram, there were certain content pieces that went viral from his end. So there's so many stories that way. And I think just to add one more point, which is that people think, like, I'm playing devil's advocate where, people talk about the fact that the market is going to get saturated with influencers. But my point is that there's always a next wave, right? The market doesn't get saturated. The market only evolves, and it creates relevance for new people who come into that space also. And I think that's very interesting. And that's why this whole creator economy where people are, starting to become influencers, starting to create content, I do feel like there is always relevance for someone who comes into the scene in a new way, essentially.
No, the funniest part is that we are doing this right now while we're speaking, while we're speaking and creating our first episode, right? So before we started the episode, we're like, what's the point of this? What's the relevance? All of that. And now we're here today.
Yeah, exactly. There's
Doing the same
relevance
thing,
for
right?
everyone.
So,
Yeah,
like, there'll be a
absolutely.
market for everyone and see what sticks and what doesn't. For sure.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, but
And I
overall, I
think,
think Pepsi did a really good job. For
yeah,
sure, right?
yeah,
In terms of
100%. I
positioning
think,
themselves. The last thing that I would mention regarding this is the fact that in North America, unlike India, and we compare it right now, I feel like the fact that even a brand as big as Pepsi is focusing on taste and focusing on product, right? There's no jingle around it. There's no what you feel when you open a can of Pepsi. It's straight up taste,
it's the
right?
feeling.
So the
Yeah.
fact that you've gone back to the fundamentals of what your product is about is what I love most. For sure.
And I think that's what it comes to, right? If you have a great product, you don't need to sell it like in any other way, but just through the flavor and the taste of it. So I think that's wonderful.
100%. Yeah, let's move on. I think we should get started with what Thumbs Up has done in India now, more relevant to our audience at the moment. So let's check it out.
That's right now, baby. There's a storm coming. That's right. There's a storm coming now. There's a storm coming now. Yeah. Take no time, I'm here. Fully like a loaded, how we make the crowd chill. Big risk, baby, don't care. If we don't wanna die, it's how the hell we get there, huh? Show love, cause that's so rare. But when it's showtime, man, we can't show fear. Nah. Big noise out of your ear. There's a storm coming, who's staying, who running now? It's the thunder. Is you ready to roll now, baby? It's the thunder now. That's right, there's a storm coming now. That's right, there's a storm coming now.
तूफानी करते हैं अपनी मनमानी करते हैं टूटे तारों को जोड़ेंगे हम हाथों से लोहा मोड़ेंगे पार पे सवार हम हदों के पार हो आए
Yeah, they feel the power of the
So yeah, so what did you think about the Thumbs up.
I think it's a very interesting video. I love videos like this where there's, so many different characters and a lot happening, and I think when everything flows so well into each other, it's the thought process that goes behind it is what I love. Like the person who's thought about it, this has really focused on the nuances, especially. So if you watch the whole video, I think the first part of the video is like a callback to one of the thumbs up ads that were done before, where you had the person jumping down and grabbing a bottle of thumbs up. So
Yeah.
again, having a callback to it. And then, moving on to having Hanuman kind in the video, the track being made by him, I think there's a lot of relevance to it as well because it's a lot of, I think
To the
for a
audience,
brand like,
right?
it's an
about the
audience, right? Yeah, for a brand like Thumbs Up, even if you look at the creative direction, right? Like it's very gritty, it's very rugged. So the whole idea of Thumbs Up being, Aaj kuch toofani karte hain, has that grit and ruggedness to it. And I think Hanuman kind with his music and the way he's been rapping and the way he's been making waves in the industry and how he's been displaying the whole idea of India, right? I think they have found a way to show that in that particular act, the grittiness, the energy of it. And I think that's a very uh, apt thing to do and to appeal to a certain audience like that. You see a lot of polished ads, but this is more in a space of, great adventure, the hardness of the drink and, the whole idea of Aaj Kuch Toofani Karte Hain. So I think it's a beautiful way to display it. And then, when you move forward, there's Hanuman kind, and then you have someone like a Vishal Dadlani, right? So I think before in this video, when we were talking about cultural relevance and, having people from the past come into the space, I think Vishal Dadlani also embodies that thing, right? So when you hear him sing, his voice, his style, the way he carries himself, it screams thumbs up, like from the right off the bat. Like in my head, I was like, the jingle that was sung, which was Aaj Kuch Toofani Karte, the famous jingle, I literally thought it was sung by Vishal Dadlani, but it was obviously made by another composer. But it was he just fit the brand so perfectly that it just felt like he belonged from that perspective.
the
So,
first
yeah.
thing that I saw
Hmm.
off the back is the fact that one, what we're talking about North America versus India, is that in our country, it wasn't the taste, it's not the product.
Hmm.
It's the feeling, right? We're trying
It's
to
the
sell
feeling.
ki drinking thumbs up is cool, right? And then when you look at their old ads, where you had like Salman, or you had all of these bigger actors in it doing stunts, jumping off cliffs, I think the definition of what is Tufani has changed.
Yeah.
Right? Like, people
Yeah.
don't buy into that stuff anymore,
Hmm.
right? The idea is that, okay, like what one kind is doing, he's actually doing it, right? Respect to the way his videos are shot, more realistic yet extremely fun, right? The audience that he caters to is very different. Still masses, next generation, Gen Z. Vishal obviously coming in there. He had a few cricketers, right? Again, not your generic
Yeah.
cricketers. You had the current captain of the T20 because the kid came out right in the World Cup. Then you have Rinku Singh again. Like I wouldn't use the word regional, but I'd say using him is he's extremely popular, right, in certain belts in India as well. Having his face in fresh look, right? He's someone who lives by the whole idea of which to funny in terms of the way he bats.
Yeah.
Right? So I
Yeah.
think that was
Absolutely.
an interesting pick as well. And at the end of the day, it comes down to you're appealing to the right audience in a new way, right? And we are a country that is moving away, which is moving away to better drinks than just cold drinks and all of that, right? Cola. And in cola itself, you have Campa and so many competitors,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So when you look at the
Yeah.
market, it's highly competitive. And for them to come up with a campaign so unique, so relevant, and come up with it right before the T20 World Cup, right? Same with the
It's
Super Bowl,
topical also. Yeah. It's
right?
very topical
Yeah,
as
so
well. Yeah.
yeah, so what I have inferred from the whole thing is that very much when it comes to advertising and eyeballs is still in sports. In India with cricket and with North America, the Super Bowl has always been the biggest, right? When it comes to advertising, marketing, brand recall, all of that. So that has stayed the same. Medium has stayed the same, right? Which is longer form, like conventional ads or videos is what we're talking about. But who is represented in these ads, how they've been shot, and the audience that is being targeted.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All have changed, and that is the whole point, right?
I think the
Of
aesthetic
like,
also, right? Like creating extremely like polished videos compared to something rugged and gritty, which is what Hanuman kind has brought into the scene, right? I think it's given, creative direction, a different aspect to it. So I think Vijay Shetty is the one who directed this video as well, and he's done most of Hanuman Kind's videos as well. And
Yeah.
the way he carries his production by showing the raw nature of things rather than having like this beautiful studio lighting, beautiful VFX and all of that. I think that's again the pieces fit the puzzle very perfectly.
100%. Fair point,
Yeah.
especially from a CD perspective, from a budget's perspective. A lot of green screens used to be used a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And now the fact that they're able to execute this on the move is pretty damn cool, right? In a world of AI where everything is being created, you don't know what's real, what's not. For us to be able to not only differentiate, be almost in awe of like, holy shit, what is it? Right?
Yeah,
Like
I get that.
That
Yeah.
is, and that is too funny, right? That's how they would.
Like even if you
Position
see the stunts
themselves.
that they're doing, right, and the way the bikes they're using, the cars they're using, they all have some sort of a callback to Hanuman Kind's music videos. So again, like I said, people when they look at this ad, they're like, oh, okay, this is made by this guy. Oh, this was cool. So it's a feeling, right? Like I watch something cool and I see it somewhere else, I will relate that coolness to that particular aspect as well. So I think they've really used that very well throughout the video, in my opinion.
I think another interesting takeaway would be looking at two different iconic brands, right, competing with each other in different markets. Such cultural relevant stuff as well when it comes to positioning. In the Super Bowl ad, we were seeing the can, right? Most of the
Yeah.
consumption happens in cans. The can was shown perfect, right, like through the eye. And in the thumbs up ad, like you saw, iconic glass box, which is only sold in
Yeah.
India and best enjoyed gold, right? That is something that is still the same, and I've seen it for at least in all 30 years of my existence, right? I'm not 30 guys, but in the last
No,
few
I know
decades, I've
people.
definitely seen it.
I know people who've like gone to search for glass bottles or like thumbs up glass bottles because when you drink from a glass bottle, there's some aspect to it
There's
which
a
it
vibe.
just tastes better.
There's
Yeah,
a
like
vibe.
drinking it from a can, drinking it from a plastic bottle doesn't have the same feeling as having it from that glass bottle as well. And I think the interesting bit is that it's the whole idea of that condensation that happens on the bottle, and that gives it that feeling of quenching your thirst. And I think a lot of brands across time and space have used that as a way to display their brand in the best way possible and how it makes you feel. So like even like again, if I allude to like Coca-Cola, for example, the way they've done their advertising, they don't you can't you can't show the flavor, you can't show the freshness of the product through imagery. But for some reason, when you see an ad where there's a thumbs up bottle with condensation on it,
In
I
the
know
car,
exactly,
100%.
yeah, I know exactly how I'm going to feel. And just by looking at it, I feel better sometimes. It's like that.
Always.
Yeah.
In India, that's been a huge part of our upbringing when it comes to soda, when it comes to pop, when it comes to so many of these items that we've had. The glass, the chill, opening it,
Opening
with
it,
your
yeah.
friends at clubs, when I say clubs, I mean like golf club, cricket clubs, the other, OG clubs. They still use.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of it. All you
Yeah.
get it. Right? Then in Jama Masjid, all
Yeah.
of those areas with your biryani, you want a cold glass beverage, right? Like that's
Yeah.
the style. वहाँ पे वो can and all nature. So I
Ah,
love the
exactly.
fact that
And I
we've
think
used-
it's I think showing different aspects of your product through storytelling in a particular advertisement is also a really good way to, it's not a really good way actually. It's a genius way to display like all aspects of your product in a certain ad through storytelling. So I think it works really well.
But yeah, I don't think this brand war is going to end anytime soon because it's been going for 100 years now, and I'm sure it's going to continue. I'm just excited
it
to
will
see what
continue.
these brands do, right? Because the competition is increasing. I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of these brands are focusing on other products. A lot of people don't know this, which I found interesting, is that so PepsiCo, right? The whole company itself, when it comes to beverages, they own Gatorade, they own Pop, they own Bubbly. There's so many other products that they have in North America as well. Same with Coke, same with Frito-Lay when it comes to food. There are so many things that they own that we don't realize that it's owned by, right? So when we say
Yeah.
brand wars, they are fighting with each other on different levels, and they're fighting with each other in consumer sense that even we don't even know that this Coke was Pepsi fighting, which I find the
Yeah.
coolest, right?
Yeah.
In different markets, right? So Powerade in energy drinks, or that market would be Coke. And then Gatorade is obviously the top player there, right? So you see
Yeah.
so many ups and downs, and it's always sometimes they win this market, sometimes you win that market, you're relevant in a certain market for a certain reason. Super interesting. Super interesting.
And I think when you have such a big monopoly in such a in the market, right? Like you try to expand into different spaces. So with
Yeah.
time, your products also start expanding because there are different uh spaces that you can tap into. So if you say someone who's the energy drink space in the health space, so I feel like all these big brands have tapped into different spaces so that they can create a monopoly. And in those smaller spaces, they're kind of battling with each other as well. So I think that's a very interesting outlook on how to go about things.
Always.
Yeah. Yeah. So I found this very interesting brand that's, based out of Delhi. And I really thought the concept behind it was really interesting and the way they went about things. And it's basically called Kala. I think this is a crochet brand, like the idea of crochet. But what's interesting is not the product actually, but the whole concept around the product. So if you go through the page and I display, every aspect of it, it's essentially this community of women that have come together and they create crochet, but it's not the product that's the highlight, it's the women behind the brand that's the highlight, because the founder herself, she collects all these women who are victims of abuse in rural areas outside of Delhi, outside in the outskirts of town. And that's a sad reality that we still face in this day and age. But she gives them a medium and a space where they can express themselves and work at something to feel like that. Because when you in villages in India, when you see people, they still have that perspective where you're a little backward. You don't think that women can work, you don't think that women belong in certain spaces. But this is what she's trying to essentially break, which is giving them work and creating such beautiful crochet products. So she started out with a clothing line that was there eventually, and kind of moved into a different space. But the just the aesthetic of the brand, the way they've displayed it, the way they, like I'll just play one of these videos and I'll show you like how they cover these women as well. So very raw, short videos of showing the products being created, showing the whole aesthetic of the brand in a very earthy, rural way, but having that premium touch to it, because these products take a lot of time to create. It's a lot of heart and soul that goes behind it. But and now I'll just scroll down and I'll show you guys the clothing which they started off with, and it's very interesting how they pivoted as well. So if you see, they started off the clothing. They have some famous faces that have created that worn these products. They've created like nice films. So if you see this image also, right? It's connecting modernity with something that's so rural, and it's a beautiful way to display uh, modern Indian aesthetic, but also sticking to the roots. I think that's something that they did really well. And they slowly started pivoting to creating like smaller aspects of it, and now they've fully pivoted into this way. They've stopped creating clothing, but they are creating all these cute roses that you can sell on Blinkit. So in a way, it's also eco-friendly, right? You don't cut plants, you don't you buy it from a florist. You buy something that stays for you for a long time, and I think that was something that really appealed to me. And if you look at the pieces, each and every piece is very unique in itself in terms of the color palette they use, in terms of the style, the aesthetic. So the founder has put a lot of mind into what her products can look like, and I think that's very important, right? Because uh, it's not the people, it's the people who execute the product as well, but it's the vision. So it's the vision and how she transfers that vision to these women and how they create such nice product. And I'm sure we must have seen all these fake flowers, fake plants out there that don't look aesthetic enough. But I've seen a lot of people buy this, and I go to like random restaurants, I go to random homes, and I see them people replacing actual flowers with these crochet flowers. So to me, this was definitely a brand that I felt like hasn't gotten the appeal that it should. And I'm sure like they are slowly growing, but this is something that was um, a beautiful concept in my mind.
No, it's amazing. And I was just gonna say, can I see the website? Do they sell directly? I think they're on Zepto, they're on
Give me a
Fast,
sec.
all of them.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. Zepto, Blinkit. They're selling
So
in
they
retail at Broadway.
absolutely. Let me just. I think there is a creator where they sell on Blinkit, they sell on Zepto everywhere. So it's
So
quick
I think
service
their
as well,
website
right?
link
Like
is
you.
on top. I think you'll be able to click on the
One.
website.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
So even if you look at the website, right, it's extremely polished,
Simple, it's clean.
simple, clean,
Yeah,
very
and the
nice.
prices are great. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
it's
it's
very
not
it's
positioned.
affordable for crochet as well, right?
Very cool, very cool. And especially the fact that we're covering this closer to Valentine's Day. I hope somebody can, probably
Yeah,
add to it.
she's
So I should
she's
start
they're,
doing
they're
it.
actually doing a Valentine's
Yeah,
Day campaign where they've gotten like such big orders from
incredible.
from Blinkit, from Zepto and all that. I had a word with the founder once, and she was telling me that it's a very steep climb, and fulfilling these orders. I don't know. It's like it's a good thing that they have so much, but it's a lot of work that goes behind it as
Yeah,
well.
because I don't think
So
it's like a factory system, right? It's like a
yeah, it's not a
proper,
factory. It's
yeah,
handmade with love, right?
yeah.
Essentially. So, and it's women led, all of it, and I love that this whole website just displays the whole ideology of the brand and a mix of the product, the people, as well as, certain people who've become ambassadors for the brand as well.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. No, I hope we can, place an order to soon for them. And I hope a lot
Yeah.
of people find out about. Are they only in Delhi or are they servicing elsewhere as well?
They're only in
Yeah,
Delhi
so
currently, but I think because of the fact that it's very handmade, right? Her establishments are right on the outskirts of Delhi, so all these women that she works with are from villages on the outskirts, and I think there is a space for expansion, but I do feel like a brand like this, it's much better for them to grow slower because it's more people
100%.
oriented, and anything that's people oriented needs slow growth rather than having like a
100%.
quick expansion to it. And it loses its novelty then.
No, but everything, man. Like if you look at how thoughtful, just the fact that they named it color,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What color means, and then
Hmm,
the logo, the way it's created, it's incredible. It's incredible.
absolutely. Yeah.
The creative direction, Nishant, something for you to learn as well. Some real dope stuff. Loved it. Loved it.
Yeah, same. That's exactly why I wanted to display this brand today. I think it's beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah, do guys show some love. Go and
Like, share,
subscribe to them.
subscribe.
Yeah. But yeah, that brings us to the end of our first episode, which I can't believe that I'm saying when it comes out of my mouth. All the shit that we've been through in the last few weeks. But I really hope that Glued by SAS is something that is not just for the time being and just to cover a campaign, right? I think there's so much that happens in our country and across the globe. We can learn from them, they can learn from us. I think anyone who sees our episode should basically
Hmm.
take away something, right? Like there has to be something that they learn, whether it's just a new brand, something unique, our take, right? I think I won't mention that, guys, we're going to have guest episodes, so it won't be just the two of us rambling all the time. We're going to have some really interesting people. I'm super excited for them. We're going to have people from hardcore marketing. We're going to have people who are CMOs. We're going to have creative directors. We're going to have
Yeah.
strategists. I can't wait, right? Honestly, to talk about, that's so the idea also came from the fact that somehow creative agencies seem to be competing all the time. We're not very like when it comes to
Hmm.
the togetherness that we should have of pushing each other and basically pushing good work forward. I don't think exists to the level that I think it should. Right. So hopefully we can also see a lot of people's work. And in our episodes, in the description, guys, you can find obviously the brands that we featured, who created them, the agency, the director, all of that, because the goal is to spread good work, right? And see how it impacts all of us, right? Without even knowing. And yeah, hopefully you'll see us every week. Do share, like, subscribe, and do leave a comment or two. And we'll make sure that we read it.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Wonderfully said, Aditya.
Wow, seems like I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos.
Yeah.
I'm signing out, guys. See you soon.
Peace out. Take care, guys. Thank you.
Take care.